Check.
Right as I'm about to do the intro.
Check.
Guys, welcome to Watch Diary. My name is Ryan Snelling. I'm so happy to be here with you as always. Lots of TV to talk about today with my good friend, my good buddy, Brando Hall. How are you, Brando?
Well, you know, another day in paradise or whatever.
I was going to say rough morning or...
What's your least favorite response to, hey, how's it going? Well, you know, it's going.
Yeah, I don't know. I think something that I wish the other person had the insight or the awareness to just not really answer that question, but really just bring up something I can or want to respond to. You know what I mean? It's like, Brando, how's it going? You don't say bad or good. You just say, yeah, I just finished, I don't know, organizing my bookshelf, and then I can just go anywhere with it. Oh, really? You got a bookshelf? Oh, really? What kind of books do you read? Like, that kind of thing I appreciate. I like that.
Yeah.
So the courtesy is just asking, hey, how are you? But, actually say something. Don't just, I don't know.
But the last thing you want is to know, really how the person's doing.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying.
You don't care.
It's like I kind of just want them to answer with an interesting anecdote. But if you're just gonna answer the question literally, of course, the best way is just be like, fine, and immediately go, how are you? And then you've left. Because the person who initially asks, as long as they're not one of those people that just ask just so they can be asked, you know what I mean? Then it's going to be fine and easy and it'll be over in a minute. But I guess worst case scenario is just simply being like, I'm not doing too well. You know, I have to every now and then somebody at work that I interact with,
living the dream,
a stranger, not someone I work with, but if a stranger answers with, I'm having a bad day or whatever, I don't know. I usually just give them a free thing. I'm trying to avoid talking to specifically about what I do, but I usually just help them out instead of actually saying anything. So they'll be like, yeah, I'm having a really bad day or this happened, and then I'll just be like, oh, I can do this for you. That way it's kind of not involving myself, but I just kind of also say something to kind of leave it alone. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, you've taken this way farther. I thought you were going to say something like, oh, another day, another dollar. Or living the dream. Or any of those kind of quick responses just make me die inside.
Well, I've thought a lot about this, as you can tell.
Sure.
But also, I kind of did exactly the thing that I said I like. Which is, I've been asked, you know how many podcasts I've done where me and my co-host have talked about this already? So you asked me that question. I've been asked that before, maybe even by you, and I just kind of went a different direction.
Let the past die. Kill it if you must.
You're close. Not quite, but...
It doesn't matter because none of those movies matter. And... So I just got done binging today, this afternoon, the new Andor series.
Right.
Watched all 3 straight in a row.
Yeah.
And if you've been here the past couple weeks, I brought up that sometimes studios release multiple episodes at once.
Yeah.
Because they know it's not good.
Right.
Or to try and get the audience sucked in before the show really takes off or doesn't in the Rings of Power instance. But so I watched 3 of these episodes today.
Yeah, I know.
And when did you watch them?
I watched them the next day. So they came out on Wednesday. I watched them Thursday morning, I believe.
Okay. I wish I would have known they came out on Wednesday.
Yeah, so I told you that when I assigned you this.
You didn't say Wednesday.
Yeah, I totally did, dog.
Yeah, well, I don't pay attention to you.
I was gonna say.
So yeah, I watched them all today, and yeah, I'm ready. Are you ready to talk? You want to dive into that now, or you want to? What do you want to do?
Viewers, listeners, this is how I find out that Brando doesn't have a whole lot of time to podcast.
That's not true.
Whenever he just takes the reins and starts bringing up, you've done this a couple times. I never care. I think it's funny, but it's like you cue in like Snelling. Don't vamp. Don't talk to me about how you greet people in public. We're going straight to. There's a couple episodes.
No.
There's a couple episodes because I cut out the clips individually on the YouTube channel, and a lot of those segues are you just starting for me. Great.
No, I've got tons of time.
Okay, I'm that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't matter. I'm ready if you want to talk about it, but I will say though, real quick, yes, we're here to talk about the 3 premiere episodes of Andor. We're gonna spoil them. We're also gonna do a mid-season meetup of House of the Dragon. I'm assuming you know that because that's probably the title of of the podcast. And I also have Don't Worry, Darling to talk about. I don't know if you want to sit in on that, but I saw it last night. And
Okay.
So that's what's been going on. I will give a quick update, and I want to tell you about this. So,
okay,
I told you I was doing these horror watch-alongs, right?
Horror.
Yeah. What did I say? Horror.
Yeah. You've been doing that your whole life. Go ahead.
Yeah. That's what I should upload to YouTube. All of my horror watch-alongs. Maybe that's what I'll do. I told you I was doing this, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of
wanted.
wanted.
Didn't you bail immediately?
No. The initial plan was to do one a day in the month of October, so 31.
Yeah.
And I always shoot sky high when I come up with an idea. Oh, you've never made a short film before, but you're gonna make a feature film about? Yeah, sure, Snelling. Didn't happen.
That's right.
That was way too much to put on my plate, and I had no idea. I never imagined how painstakingly long it takes to edit these stupid videos. So I changed it to I'm going to do one every single weekday in October, but not counting the weekdays I'm in Kentucky. So there's a couple of stipulations, but that comes down to 18 movies. And
sounds like bailing immediately.
No. I've done, let's see, I'm in the middle of editing number 7, and October is in what, 7 days? I don't know if I can do it. I think I'm going to have to cut back on even more.
Let me go ahead and tell you, you can't do it.
Yeah.
You won't do it.
Because that's the other thing, too. The thing about not releasing because I'm in Kentucky, that also means those are days that I can't edit anymore because I'm in Kentucky. So that trip takes away time that I could spend working on them, let alone releasing them. So I don't think I can do it.
2 a week.
Yeah, I might have to go to 2 a week, which is funny too because I've already edited some of these under the impression I was going to do 31. So one's gonna be on Monday, October 3rd, or I think that's the 3rd. Yeah, Monday, October 3rd. The first one's released, and I open the video with "Welcome to 31 Days, 31 Horrors." I'm doing a watch along one. So I do this entire intro. First of all, the date's gonna be wrong because I was like, "Happy October 1st," but you're watching it on the 3rd, and you can tell too because I'm not trying to overly explain that I'm pre-recording all of them, but I'm right in the middle of one of the videos. I just say, you know what, guys, I just decided I'm not doing one of these every day. So you in the middle of watching this series, you find out that I'm bailing so hard. I don't know. I just thought you'd get some enjoyment out of my failure.
Anytime that something doesn't go exactly the way I plan, I call it Snelling. It's like, doctor, I was trying to lose weight, but then all of a sudden I snellinged.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
that's great. Well, can I tell you about the movies that I've watched for the first time?
Let me guess. They're horror movies, right?
Yeah.
Okay. For the first time, you watched The Shining.
No, I've seen The Shining. I don't like The Shining. Did you know that? Yeah. I don't really...
Why?
I don't know.
Because it's good?
I just don't really... It's not that I don't buy it. I just don't really... I don't like watching how weird everybody is. That kind of stuff, it doesn't... Like, that's what horror fans live for, and that's why I'm not a horror fan. Like, I'm so annoyed with how weird everyone is in that movie, and I can't stand watching Shelley Long in that movie. Can't stand it. So, when the actors... Shelley Duvall. Sorry. Shelley Long's from Cheers. Shelley Duvall. So, that... If I want to turn on a movie, why do I want to turn on a movie where, like, I'm just bothered by everybody? And also, I just, like... I don't think that movie really... I don't want to say explains itself, but it kind of doesn't explain itself, and I don't know.
It's
weird.
better than Halloween.
I mean, I'm not that big.
It is.
Halloween, I watched for the first time a few years ago when the most recent, basically when they restarted these sequels with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
And I was so underwhelmed by it, and it was one
that's
of
right.
It was one of those things where I got online and I just went in on it, and everybody, Brody Koenig had a problem with it. There was I'm trying to think, somebody from like the Schmoes No universe was like texting me back and forth about it, like taking issue with what I said. But Halloween is the most underwhelming movie to go back and rewatch after you've seen the types of movies that have been made in my lifetime. And so I'm like, what's amazing about a slasher like that when you've seen so many already? I mean, it's one of those things where like, okay, you tell me it's what started it. I understand that, but am I supposed to think anything else other than, okay, like,
that's right.
it's a movie.
That's the correct. Yeah, it's a cool premise, and it scared me when I was a kid because I was a kid. Watching it now, you're like, boobs, you know.
Yeah,
that's one of the first things. That's one of the core memories of growing up is going to my friend Jake Beck's house, watching that movie, getting scared, and seeing my first pair of boobs in my life was from that movie.
My first set of boobs, I think, that I remember was in a Bruce Lee movie called Fists of Fury or I can't remember which one it is. It's either Fists of Fury or Chinese Connection. When a naked woman takes off her shirt and walks in on him into his bedroom. And I remember...
That's in a Bruce Lee movie?
Yeah.
That's wild.
And I remember I was at my dad's house. That's where I could watch stuff like this. And...
Smut.
Whenever... It was random because, like, whenever I would go to my dad's house... We were always in the same room together. I can't remember at the time if I had a TV in my bedroom or not, but I only stayed there on weekends. So usually we would just like watch stuff in the living room and we would never be in different rooms. But I remember for some reason I just thought to myself, I'm going to go watch that boob scene. And so I wonder, my dad probably thought it was weird because I just like went to his bedroom where he had a TV and VCR. And I just started watching basically for that scene. Like I was fast forwarding to get to that scene. It was a VHS. And I remember my dad like walked to his bedroom to go to the bathroom and like saw that I was watching the movie I was watching, but he didn't walk in on me watching the scene. But I wonder what he thought. Like, why is Ryan watching this movie in my room? It was to see boobs.
Yeah, I think he knew exactly why you were in there.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if my dad...
I used to...
recalled what went down in that movie, but probably.
Yeah, speaking of, I watched a movie recently where, I remember. So I watched this like indie movie called Yes, God, Yes.
All right.
Have you heard anything about it?
The title sounds familiar, but I can't recall literally anything else about it.
So it's Nancy from Stranger Things.
Oh,
is
yeah,
the actress, and she plays this little floozy. Okay, she's it's a coming of age story but it's set in like deep. If you grew up Christian and went to a Christian camp, this is what would have happened. But she's like, learning how to, play with her kibbles and bits. Like, she's learning those things. And, like, you see her sexual awakening. But she rewound and fast-forwarded the Titanic scene with Kate Winslet. And I remember doing that as a kid.
I did that too.
And my parents, my mom had a copy. Oh, God, this is embarrassing. My mom had a copy of Unfaithful with
Diane Lane.
Yeah, Diane Lane and Richard Gere. And there was a few scenes in that I would, in my adolescence, discovering who I am, I would fast forward and rewind that movie. And that's actually probably, I made up probably half the views that movie ever got as a child.
I remember when that movie came out and my dad and my stepmom watched it or like bought it or something, but they like made it a point to tell me I wasn't allowed to go near it. And I knew exactly what they meant by that. I knew that it was raunchy. I also remember my dad had a laptop in his kitchen. I'm trying to think of what the setup was. Like, I could sit at the kitchen on a laptop and like my back right behind me would be a wall, so nobody could like walk behind me and see what I was looking at. And I remember like Google imaging like Lindsay Lohan.
Our last night.
Lindsay Lohan, hot. and then he got a computer room. Like it was like a side room, and then his computer was at the end, and so the entire room was behind me and the door. So then once he got his computer room, people could just walk in and see instantly what I was looking at. And I would get online just to look at Google image like hot chicks. And it would be like whoever I thought was attractive at the time. So like Lindsay Lohan did like a bikini spread in some magazine. This was peak Lohan. Just ran like Alyssa Milano. I think my stepmom used to watch Charmed. So everybody,
okay.
Alyssa Milano. There was an actress that was in all those shows like that, and Angel. Charisma Carpenter was another. So I would just do that, and so eventually I got caught and wasn't allowed to use the computer.
I want to know how that confrontation went. Now, Ryan, you've been looking for girls kissing girls.
I remember also getting on late at night, my computer at my own house, getting on the computer and doing the exact same thing, but I found porn on, like I discovered porn at my home computer. And there was one day my dad brought me home to my mom's house, and there were a couple of weeks, it didn't last long. My dad would stay a little while and we like shoot basketball. And there was one time, so we were shooting basketball, and then my mom comes out on the deck and was like, "Jerry, can you come up here for a minute?" And so I thought that was kind of weird because I never saw my parents like talk privately.
Yeah.
And so my dad went into my mom's house and they talked, and then they came back out and were like, "Ryan, can you come up here, please?" And as I walked in, they were both seated in the computer room. And they were like, "Come sit down." And I sat down, and they were like, "Is this you that's looking up all this?" And it was the one time that I forgot to delete the Google search history. So, like when you went to Google and you started typing, it suggests all those things, the drop-down box, and everything like explicit was there.
And so, what did they say to you? Or what did you say? How did you respond?
I don't remember. I was just so like terrified. I don't remember exactly what was said.
Taylor did it.
Yeah. She would have been like 5 years old at this point, but yeah.
She's brilliant.
Yeah.
No, I think Cadence is 9.
Yeah.
And when I go to get his switch, like so here's something. His showers, so he's been showering every day now, and I don't know if it's because, when you're a kid and you're that young, especially if you're a boy, you'll go a couple days between a shower. At 9 years old, right?
I bathed every day, man. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know how
Well,
people are going to respond to this.
most boys, when they're 9, if they're not made to take a bath, and they didn't have gym or anything, you'll let them go 2 days between showers.
Here we go. We solved it. If you're not made to. So you are not suggesting this every day.
Right. Like, he comes home and showers on his own.
Okay.
But he's in there for a while. And
Right.
I'm like, now he's 9. There's no way that he's, because I'll look at Lulu and I'm like, he's been in there a minute. What's he doing? And Lulu's like, well, you never know. Some people start young. And I'm like, no, he's not doing that. So, while he's in the shower, I go get his Switch, his Nintendo Switch, and I open it up just to look. And all of the searches in YouTube are like, Fortnite V-Bucks free, hacking Fortnite, poop emoji, baby Yoda, blah, blah, blah. So it's innocent. He's an innocent boy.
Right.
So then I get on his PlayStation 4 just to double check what he's been looking up. And again, it's all like, hack Fortnite, free money Fortnite, steal money Fortnite. Because, he wants that battle pass, and he didn't clean. So
Right.
you don't clean, you don't get the battle pass.
Is that
Yeah,
it?
I remember the first time. Oh, yeah, there was nothing, like, nefarious.
I thought you were
But
going to
remember-
say. I thought you were going to say, and then I walked in on him in the bathroom, and with the body wash, he had drawn boobs on the wall.
No, in excrement on our shower is just written, my parents don't love me.
Excrement.
Yeah.
Comedically, that's the best word you could have used there.
That's right.
Excrement.
Yeah.
Anyway. Oh, man.
V-Bucks, free, hacking. Yeah.
Oh, shit. That's great. I love this.
At 9 years old, did you have a video game system?
Of course.
What'd you have?
I mean,
You were a Sega kid, weren't you?
well, this was, you got to think, like, when Nintendo came out and it was, like, so new, I mean, it was my parents that bought it for themselves. So when I was growing up, like, super early, I had the original Nintendo and then the Super Nintendo. One of my earliest childhood memories is getting the Nintendo 64 for whatever birthday that was.
What birthday was it? You need to figure it out.
It might have been like 6 or 7. I can't remember. What year did 64
But did
come
they
out?
get it for themselves or did they really get it for you?
No, the N64 was a gift to me, but my parents had bought the previous systems like for themselves.
Okay, so
Yeah.
So how how old were you when your parents got divorced?
2.
Oh, okay. I was about to say you should have got like all the systems because they're trying to win your love and approval, right?
I have no living. I have
Okay.
I have no memory of my parents ever being married.
Gotcha. Okay. That took a depressing turn.
I was gonna say, are we going to? All right. So the horror movies I've watched for the first time.
Yes.
I just want to share with you real quick. I want to get your reaction. So Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho.
Who cares?
Oh, I thought it was really great. So I thought I thought you'd be more shocked that I hadn't seen it because a lot of these movies I'm ashamed to have admit that I've never seen them, but also not really because, like I said, I never care about this stuff.
What's his name? Vince. The guy who was in the remake of Psycho.
Vince Vaughn?
Vince Vaughn. I love Vince Vaughn.
Oh, that's
Great
good.
movie.
Okay. Rosemary's Baby.
It's a creepy movie.
I loved it. I loved it. Night of the Living Dead.
Great movie.
I disagree.
No, for what it is and what it really means.
It's the 1963 version.
Yeah, the black and white.
Yeah, I don't like that movie.
It's about communism. Go ahead.
The Exorcist.
Great movie.
Excellent. I loved it. The original 1973 or 4, whatever it was, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Terrible.
Yeah, I actively hate watched that movie. I'm spoiling my reaction, but it's okay.
Yeah.
The original Wicker Man.
Terrible. But entertaining, but so bad.
It also just like wasn't a horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
With
the policeman.
all the like,
the policeman's like trying to figure out why doesn't this island have any fruit on it, and then he asks 10 people in a row about this girl. It's so redundant.
and
anyway.
it's shot terribly. All of the choices are stupid,
Yeah,
and the music is silly goose times.
and plus I have the reference in my head of like that infamous scene from the remake with Nicolas Cage where it's like the bees, not the bees. There's like nothing like that in the original. I expected like some element of like torture porn, like this guy was gonna go through hell, and the fact that I'm spoiling my reactions, but anyway, and
Midsommar is a better Wicker Man. Go ahead.
100%, and so I'm in the middle of editing my video for Carrie. The original Carrie.
I don't remember if it was good or not. Probably not, though.
I liked it.
Yeah, it's been so long since I've seen it, but that actress is how I respond to Shelley Duvall. Or is how you respond to Shelley Duvall.
Sissy Spacek. She was the lead in Castle Rock.
Was she? Was she a lead?
She was Bill Skarsgård's mom, right? Or no, Bill Skarsgård plays the stranger. I don't remember. She's the old lady with like dementia.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what that's
That
about.
show didn't have a lead.
That's true.
Sidekicks, okay?
Okay, so earlier when you tried to take control of this podcast episode, you were talking about how this was released 3 episodes at a time, and I think you had an update on your experience with this type of show that releases multiple episodes at a time. This is obviously a premiere reaction, guys, so we're just talking about these 3, obviously, at the time that we're sitting down here. So how was this... How was this experience for you watching the first 3 episodes of Andor?
So I've got to be honest and say I didn't finish the Book of Boba Fett because it wasn't good.
Right.
Didn't finish it.
Right.
Barely. Well, I did finish The Mandalorian. It actually got better as it went along, I thought. And then I have watched 0 of the Kenobi show.
Okay.
So that should tell you like where my heat meter is on Star Wars right now.
Yeah.
I enjoy Star Wars, but I enjoy Star Wars for space wizards, for the lore, and for the religion of the Force, whatever. That's what I like.
Okay.
I like lightsabers and I like wizards.
Okay.
So, having said all that, I think Rogue One is easily the best thing Disney's done with Star Wars since other than The Force Awakens. Period. It's the best thing. I love Rogue One as a movie. I liked, it was grounded. There were no space wizards until the end. But if you would have said, who's Andor? I called it Endor because I know so little, right? Like when we were joking about it, I was like, Endor. When are we watching Endor?
Well, Endor is a planet, so I understand getting confused.
So this is about Cassian Andor.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just want to make sure I got his first name right. And it wasn't like Cassius. Cassius Clay. Shout out. Louisville. So, yeah, I didn't... on episode 1, I'm not having fun. Okay? I think it's fine. I'm not having fun, though. Mm-hmm. There's none of the things I like about Star Wars here. In fact, with how they're setting it up, it almost seems like oh, are you just trying to tell like a Rebels story? And Rebels, Star Wars Rebels was sick. So that's what I'm hoping this series does, is that they go more into, and by the third episode, I was all in. So by episode 3, I had fun. But episode 1, I almost fell asleep during it. And then episode 2 kicks on, and I'm texting you, because I think I texted you during episode 1 and was like, when am I going to care about these characters? And then, I just felt like episode 1 was just setting up so much of the story, but I wasn't putting 2 and 2 together that there were flashback scenes. So I was like, when are these forest people gonna step into the ooze from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and turn into Ewoks? Like, when is that gonna happen? They're giving themselves like Chris Angel Mind Freak soul patches with the paint, and then little Cassian wants to stick his finger in the paint, and one of his friends goes, "Ooh, ooh, ooh." They don't tell us what they say for some reason. I hate when shows do that. Tell us what they're saying. Don't say they're speaking another language. Don't care. Already knew that. I want to know what they've said. But anyway, they set up all this stuff. By episode 3, things are really coming together, which is why they released these 3 at the same time, to get you through the setup, to get into some of them, like where the story is going to go. And I had a great time in episode 3. So it was a little bit of a dirge to get through it. But once I did, I'm glad I did. And, I'm excited about where the show's going to go. And, dude, Bix, so hot. Bix is hot.
All right, so let's go back. Hold on, we got to backtrack. That was a lot.
Do it.
So how much did you know about the show before going into it then? Other than,
I thought it was called Andor.
Right? But I mean, did you know that it took place before Rogue One? Did you know that it was about...
It would have had to have.
That's true. But, did you know that it was about the seedy, underbelly of the galaxy and how... I mean, you didn't know any of that?
No.
Do you know who the showrunner is?
No.
Oh, you know almost nothing then.
Is it Gareth Edwards?
No. So it's Tony Gilroy, the screenwriter who wrote Michael Clayton and worked heavily on my beloved Bourne franchise.
Okay.
And here's the kicker, and here's why I'm so glad that I get to deliver this information for you. He directed The Bourne Legacy, starring Jeremy Renner.
Was there a strike? Were people not available?
Look, so I'm telling you this because Tony Gilroy is the guy who came in and saved Rogue One from all of its production issues. Because it's one of those poltergeist situations where Gareth Edwards was given directorial credit, but Tony Gilroy came in and shepherded the movie with the reshoots and basically made Rogue One what it actually is.
Okay.
So Tony Gilroy came directly from Rogue One, which I think is important because you said you responded heavily to Rogue One. The man who basically made that movie what it is the one who continued this thread of, I have more of a story to tell Andor. So that's why we're going back. And so I'm glad you brought it up too, though, because it's when we talk about Star Wars, people I think obviously gravitate more towards war or lore, and I think I'm more of a war guy. So this is exactly the same with Marvel. I like my boots on the ground, the Captain Americas, the Hawkeyes, Daredevil. I like all that stuff more.
Twerking Hulks.
Yeah, I like all that stuff more than say my Captain Marvels. So that's how I like my Star Wars. So as Star Wars has... how should I put this? Over the years, since Disney has bought Star Wars, my relationship it's given me whiplash, honestly. From movie to movie, from project to project, my fandom for Star Wars has changed. And finally, I just threw in the towel after Rise of Skywalker. The Mandalorian, me and Jay did weekly recaps on The Mandalorian. And basically, it was just this is an enjoyable experience. But it's also just you watch it and forget about it. It wasn't really that involving, and if anything, I kind of just like appreciated the fact that they introduced the volume technology, and we could do this type of show. And obviously, you can't take away its cultural significance because culturally, it's one of the biggest shows on the planet.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have a lasting value. It doesn't feed me. It's not a substantial meal. And I don't think it ultimately contributes to the conversation in television. And to be fair, I mean, I think any Disney Plus show, I don't think they care about making or contributing to the television landscape. It's almost just like, hey, what can we just throw out and put the Marvel label on? That'll serve as many people as possible. And I think it's suffering tremendously. So finally, with all that said, Andor, I was going into it hoping with Tony Gilroy, hoping with the connective tissue of Rogue One, hoping that it would transcend every other thing that's going on Disney Plus right now, the Marvel shows and Star Wars shows, and I think it delivered 100% on that promise with these 3 episodes. And it almost transcends Disney Plus, honestly. Like, it's crazy that this show is on Disney Plus based on the precedent that they've set over the last few years.
Oh, you think?
100%. I was like, this could have been on HBO, and I would have believed it as an HBO show. I thought it was actually finally giving us a story, and the writing was great. I think the writing has been so poor or so surface level on a lot of these other shows. We're actually like getting into something. We're sinking our teeth into something. And it's also just Star Wars like we've never seen it before. And I'm like you. I think Rogue One, now that I've had some time to reflect, Rogue One is the best thing to come out. And the fact that this is just a great brother companion series to that, I mean, I think Rogue One and Andor already are the best things about Disney Star Wars.
I still think The Force Awakens is a good movie. I think it's better. There's space wizards in it. And that's just what I like about Star Wars. But coming from your perspective and the fact that Rogue One was so good. I mean, that opening sequence in Rogue One where, she gets stuck and she can't get those bombs out. And then finally does, but like has to sacrifice her life at the very beginning of that. Is that Rogue One or is that a new Force Awakens?
I have no idea what you're talking about. You're talking about The Last Jedi.
No, I'm talking about the bombing scene where they're bombing and
That's
they're
The
like
Last
dropping.
Jedi.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, I'm high. Never mind. I'm not really high, but Jesus. Well, I think about that scene because how does Rogue One start? Because I love the beginning of Rogue One.
Rogue One starts with Mads Mikkelsen meeting.
That's right. Yeah. Hell yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I'm one of the rare people. I don't hate The Last Jedi. I think it's fine. In fact, I think it's pretty good. And then
I think
The
it's
Rise
the
of
best. I think it's the best sequel. Easily.
You think it's better than A Force Awakens?
100%.
Okay. So
I think The Force Awakens...
If you're listening, you know how to trust Ryan now.
I think The Force Awakens is so uninspired, and I loved The Force Awakens when it came out. Loved it.
Yeah, it's so good.
But as time goes on and the value of that entire trilogy deteriorates, I'm looking for what do I think contributed most positively to Star Wars. And The Rise of Skywalker is so bad, it ruined the value of the previous 2 movies that are better. Honestly, like The Rise of Skywalker makes those other 2 movies worse, even though they're better. Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't. And it's fine.
Because
it's fine. Rise of Skywalker's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's one of the worst blockbusters I've ever seen. But it's also regardless, it's a terrible finale to Star Wars. to the
Sure.
Skywalker
The
saga.
Skywalker truck.
It's
yeah.
an awful ninth movie to conclude a saga. Anyway.
But this is coming from a man who stands Colin Farrell. Okay, he owns a Colin Farrell movie on Steelbook. That's nothing.
No, I don't own it on Steelbook. It's an old DVD or old Blu-ray, excuse me. But it's also
Okay.
it's also better than The Rise of Skywalker. So
okay. Anyway, you're wrong. How much did you want that Tim with 2 M's for some reason? How much did you want that Tim guy to die?
all right, let's talk a little bit about the story.
So bad.
Let's talk about the story of Andor. So, how does that? By the way, everything I just said about like Tony Gilroy and everything, does that context help your enjoyment or anything, or help like what you may or may not be?
Not even a little.
Does it make it worse?
No, it's just these are the people. You know how like your take on music in movies is, oh, it's just movie music.
That's right.
To me, it's just like, oh, it's just Tony Gilroy. I guess he wanted to be in Sopranos or something. I don't know, like. Weird name, Gilroy. I don't know if that's Italian. I don't want to disparage the pasta-eating people. But, yeah, no, it affects me none. I live my life. I have sex. Okay?
Right.
That's how I keep on my day.
That's right. So anyway, I think where that comes in, though, for me, is, again, that helped my anticipation. But it also is just the idea that we actually get a proven creator to come in and, well, not that it hasn't happened before. I mean, Jon Favreau came in to shepherd The Mandalorian, and we have like an auteur, writer, director, and Rian Johnson taking on The Last Jedi, but there's a lot of other things that plague that situation. And I think Jon Favreau is just like, isn't this cute when he makes this show? I don't think he's actually trying to. Honestly, Dave Filoni probably helps Mandalorian explore Star Wars more than Jon Favreau does. But anyway, I feel like Tony Gilroy is actually trying to give us a new angle instead of giving us fan service. And he's actually come out and spoken about how like he didn't think about fan service at all when making this movie. Because I think people are already starting to try to ask, like, when is Cassian going to meet K2SO, the droid from Rogue One? That is his companion. And I think Tony Gilroy's like, I'm not doing any sort of fan service. Like, if it's part of the story, then it's the story. But he's actually just trying to do his own thing.
Yeah.
He's trying to do his own thing instead of doing Star Wars. And I think it's paying off, and I think it's going to work.
No, because you have daddy and mommy up there who are going to tell you what you're going to do. It doesn't matter if, oh, no, I'm going to make the movie makers or this is a beautiful story. He's not Christopher Nolan, okay? He doesn't get to say, and he's working on Star Wars. He doesn't get to say there's not going to be any fan service. 1,000% there's going to be fan service. That's just lip service is what he's doing. That's not true.
I mean, time will tell, but I mean,
yeah.
This was his project. Like they greenlit his project. They didn't decide to make it and then hire Tony Gilroy.
Yeah, at one point they greenlit a Lord and Miller Star Wars movie and then stopped it. Do you know what I'm saying?
I'm not saying that K2SO isn't going to be in the show. I'm saying he's not doing it to serve fans. He's going to do it to serve story.
Yeah, and then the producers are going to come in and tell him, you will do both. Or we will find someone that will do what we say.
I mean, time will tell, but that's
not Disney way.
That's not how it's been documented. But anyway, and I think you can already tell when the fact that the opening scene is that this Star Wars hero is actually a cop killer who blows someone's head off in the opening scene. And he's also in a brothel. Like, none of that screams, oh, this is a show that's going to have Ewoks and K2SO by episode 2.
Sure. And it shows this guy, okay, got loose morals. Okay. Even if he was looking for his sister, he's got loose morals. Okay. He shot somebody so they wouldn't talk.
Right.
So, I mean, in the first scene, the first guy died. Like, he was, okay. So he's protecting himself. He's fighting back, all within his rights. But it still felt wrong, right? Like, to me, when he killed that guy, the first one was an accident. And you're like, well, we'll put it to whatever. And the second murder that he commits is to keep it quiet.
Well,
And,
that's the point.
No, I know, but I was just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Ooh, we got a naughty boy. This is like who Han Solo should have been. Killing people just to keep them, to shut up.
Well, it's who Han Solo was until George Lucas changed it. but
Yeah.
But that's besides the point. But yeah, I mean, that opening scene, first of all, it was gorgeous. I mean, it was
so
like
nice.
Blade Runner-esque. I really, really appreciated the vision. And this isn't filmed on the volume, thank God. It's actually filmed in real locations, and so, I mean, you could tell. I mean, the scale of this, it looked bigger. By the way, Obi-Wan was terrible.
Was it really?
Yes. Obi-Wan is not a good show. It's not.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, it's not. It's better than Book of Boba Fett, but it's only because you're being carried through characters you ultimately like more, but it's still not good. And Andor, the fact that Star Wars, I shouldn't act like this because I just want Andor to be good, and I think it's good up until this point, but I think it says a lot that Disney just absolutely failed Obi-Wan Kenobi, but so far has given this random character that they created 6 years ago a better show. I mean,
yeah,
it's crazy.
It's weird, and I thought the music. It was the first time music in Star Wars ever felt futuristic. Like they're in that brothel and you're hearing that kind of Blade Runner-y music, a lot of synthesizers and stuff, electro, whatever. Every other time we get, when they go to the casino planet, there's like silly music, and when they, when they're in Mos Eisley, like that's the music that's playing. So I thought that was interesting, and this one also felt very futuristic.
Yeah,
and it's the first time Star Wars has felt that way to me, because I remember watching Star Wars as a kid. All the movies, you're like, God, this looks. Their idea of the future is whack. With like, just how it looked. This is the first time, for me, that it's felt like, oh, shit, we are in the future.
Well, it's like really unique too, and I think Game of Thrones is kind of like this too. But it's like the thing about Star Wars and Game of Thrones both is that they span hundreds of thousands, or not hundreds of thousands, but thousands of years. And technology doesn't change that much.
Yeah.
Like, Tyrion Lannister, invented the wheelchair? Or he invented the saddle that Bran could ride because he's paralyzed. And it was like the first time anybody's ever thought of that. But they had saddles on dragons. So it's like, how is that progress? Anyway. But that's the thing about the Star Wars universe, is that they mastered light speed, but only one planet so far is like a metropolitan planet, and the rest are just like
right, poor.
They're just like, vast open land that hasn't been colonized, and like they barely have any sort of like surveillance, or like everything is so retro but also futuristic. And I appreciate it. I'm just saying. But yeah.
So another thing I think this show tackles really well is the Empire aspect of it.
100%.
I thought while we were watching this, I'm like, oh man, it's the first time that I felt, and I know maybe I should have picked up on it in another way, but this one's kind of explicit in the way the Empire has its thumb over everyone and is making everyone into submission. Like, where the main baddie of the show, I don't remember his name, but like his boss goes on vacation or goes to a conference or something in the beginning of the show, and it's basically like, no, it sounds like these two guys, just when the murder of the cops, he's like, it sounds like they picked on the wrong person and they got what they were deserved. And because they were somewhere where they shouldn't be with things they shouldn't have, that whole thing. And the guy's like, no, I'm a stickler. And so, that sets up the whole thing, but it's how much the Empire rules.
Right.
And puts people under this, like, and it made me think about our government. It made me think, like, so there are laws in the country that people have decided on, that people vote on, but I didn't get a say in abortion. I didn't get a say, at some of these big level decisions that are supposed to, like, guide and enforce and instruct all of us, right? But I didn't get to decide who was on the Supreme Court, because we're a republic or a representative republic. We don't get to speak into some of the laws. So I think we have some unjust laws. I think everyone would say that. And you can just break them. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can just break them, and that's what they're doing. And kind of whoever rules gets to, like, write the history. Uh-huh. So it's one of the things that we're going to talk about in Game of Thrones, but it's the same here as, like, to some people, the Empire is good.
Right.
And that's just, it's what makes Star Wars so interesting. But I think this is the first time where I felt the thumb of the Empire.
Yeah, I think, and I did a podcast about this. I can't remember. It was like a solo podcast, I think, right when I started Watch Diary. But essentially, what I talked about was how modern audiences respond less, I think, to myths. The mythic story, the chosen one, idea that Joseph Campbell, hero's journey. I think modern audiences respond to those types of stories less. And that's why we've seen, like, since the golden age of television, we've seen the rise of the anti-hero. And I think audiences are becoming more sophisticated over time, and we're asking for, like, we need world building. We need gray moralities, not just cut and dry, black and white, like, not chosen one. That's why I think Batman and Spider-Man excel, is because the point of those heroes are, like, anybody can be those heroes, not Luke Skywalker or Anakin Skywalker, whoever, or whatever theory you have, is the chosen one. Which, they're still fine. There's still room for them. I just think we've evolved past it. And when I remember kind of getting into Star Wars for the first time. Like, I had seen them as a kid, but I never latched on to Star Wars until I was older and got more involved, like, around the time that Disney bought it and stuff like that. That's when I got way more involved in all of the stories that were being released. And when I rewatched, I guess it was about the time Star Wars came out on Blu-ray, the first box set, and I bought them, and I watched them again with new eyes. And I remember just being like, they don't show the occupation of the Empire. Like, you can watch that original trilogy, and you don't really know what's bad about the Empire, other than they just, like, tell you the Empire's bad. And
they're evil. That's it.
Right. It's just, like, obvious, like, metaphors for, like, oh, this is a metaphor for fascism, stuff like that, or Nazis. It's like the imagery you connect with, but the story isn't written right. And that's why I think Star Wars has, like, and Jay and I used to talk about this. I was like, Star Wars has never blown us away because there still has, like, issues, and we still have, so the fact that, like, Rogue One did what it did, and, like, again, that goes into, like, why I was excited for this show, because I'm just like, it doesn't show the occupation of the Empire ever when you watch that original trilogy. You don't really grasp it.
Yeah.
And so, because all you're doing is following a son and father. Good, bad, black, white, those mythic ideas. But again, I was just, like, always hungry for more. So you've already mentioned the gray moralities, and I agree 100%. Like, we've been missing the dirty underground, the dirty underbelly of what the galaxy's like. And not only do we need to know how the rebellion started and what it looked like when people were oppressed in the galaxy, but we also need the point of view of people who empathize for the Empire. And so all that stuff, I'm just can't wait to eat it up.
Yeah. And, Glenn Close is in this, and, she looks great. I don't know what the woman who stole the young child,
Yeah.
Who kidnapped Cassian, is, but man, she looks like Glenn Close.
It's Aunt Petunia from the Harry Potter movies. Harry's aunt.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Very famous British actress. That was another thing too, is that they filmed this during COVID and they filmed it in England. So they just get like all the actors that are in it, other than like Diego Luna, are just like stage actors, from England and stuff. Other than the woman, I've seen in a million things, but I think she was also in Bodyguard. Did you watch Bodyguard with Richard Madden?
Is that Rob Stark?
It is.
Yeah, that was a great show.
Yeah, I think she's in that too. But anyway.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So who's the guy that was in Nymphomaniac that's in this? What's
I have
actor's
no
name?
clue, man.
But he's great, right?
What character does he play?
The old man, the Lauren, what was his name? The good guy, the old white guy who comes in and like tries to get Cassian to join.
Are you talking about Stellan Skarsgård?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that so? This is how little I know. Is he the Skarsgård's dad?
Yeah. He's Alex and
Wow.
Bill's dad.
They're way more handsome than him. No, he's great.
Yes.
He's fantastic. And
Yeah.
what's his name in the show?
Oh, I don't remember.
Oh, crap.
I mean, I can look it up, but
Yeah, I remember. So when I saw him,
Luthen.
I was hoping he was going to bust out a lightsaber. And I thought in that scene where they're surrounded, he was going to do that. He was going to force pull that box that they were all obsessed with. But I thought that scene was awesome, number one. And then I thought he did a great job. I think the Bix character had a huge impact on me, even though they've seemed to be just a side character right now.
Right.
I think they're going to come back. I'm glad that her boyfriend is dead because he's a piece of trash, tattletale rat, Tim with 2 M's. And then, I don't know, I cared about the characters more than I thought I would.
Right.
And just a quick call out to Lord of the Rings. This is how you make people care, not whatever you're doing. So yeah, I'm really intrigued to see where the story's going to go. And by episode 3, I really did think it all worked really well to pay off. I just, sometimes when you set in the stage, it just, I was, just half in, half out playing on my phone. By the middle of episode 2, I put my phone down. And then episode 3, I was, just kind of entranced with what was going to happen.
So I think the only thing that this show struggles with is the Disney Plus thing that it couldn't escape is the episode structure and length. Because I mean, we could have the boring debate, the uninteresting debate of, oh, they should have just done a 90-minute episode. It's like, it's not, I mean, maybe, but it's the fact that they just don't have beginning, middle, conclusion structures with these Disney Plus shows. They just randomly end. Now, it was a lot easier to swallow because everything in it was great for me, and the fact that I could go to the next one was great. But the thing I'm worried about now, and I was wondering if you knew this, so Tony Gilroy, the way that he designed this season, it's 12 total episodes. He has 4 directors, and each director has the 3-episode block. So we just saw the particular director, I can't remember his name, it's like Todd Haynes or something like that. He did this block of episodes, so I think it's going to be a situation where we can see they tackle different arcs and they probably look different based on every 3-episode sections. But next week, we just get episode 4. They're not releasing the director's blocks in blocks. So I'm wondering, if you imagine what it must have been like to sit down and watch any of these episodes and that's it, on a weekly basis, I do think it wouldn't work as well. So, I mean, that's what we're going to get right into. So if you were worried about what it was like to watch one lone episode, I mean, that's how we have to do it next week, and we might have a completely different conversation.
I don't think shows like this I don't. Okay, so this might be a weird take. I don't think shows like this make me want to watch it weekly. Like, just release them all.
Sure.
Release them all. Let us take in the whole story. When it's like this, because it's not a cliffhanger, because they're not beginning, middle, and end.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to feel weird in a week-to-week watching experience.
Right. Yeah, but I'm also grateful that it's 12 episodes instead of a 6 or a 9, the way that Marvel wants to do it. But I think that's the other thing, too. And I think it's, again, I don't want to... time will tell if this show ever like fumbles or maybe the structure or the organization of the episodes or the release ever, maybe it won't work eventually, but maybe I'm like super high on this based on how disappointing I've been with television lately. 2 of the 4 big franchise shows right now are great or good to great, and the other 2 are, bad to meh. So maybe
what are the 4?
House, Rings of Power, She-Hulk, and Andor. I'm watching 4 shows on a weekly basis.
You put She-Hulk in there? The 4 big ones? She-Hulk's one of those?
Are you trying to be funny?
No, She-Hulk's a nothing throwaway show.
That's not the argument. I'm not saying I disagree with you.
Oh, okay.
It's a massive show. It's a Marvel property.
Yeah, but it's okay. No, it is, but who cares? So you're only putting it in there because Marvel made it.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I mean that's what people talk about on a weekly basis right now. Are these 4 shows?
If you're an idiot, you're talking about She-Hulk every week. If you're an idiot, and here's why: because that'd be like a breakdown of what's the Roseanne show that's still happening? It's exactly the same thing. Who cares? You idiots. Breaking down She-Hulk, that's like breaking down Family Matters.
I'm not okay.
Each Urkel episode. That's all I'm saying.
I'm not talking about you didn't I don't think you got my point.
No, I did. Saying
you're talking about breaking it down on a podcast. I'm talking about
weekly podcast.
I'm talking about what television is hot weekly. And I just gave the 4 biggest shows on television right now. And then you're making it about how great you can talk about it on a podcast.
No, it's not. No, I'm not. I'm talking about it like if this is the kind of premiere event television that you call premiere event television, it's just not. It's not. It's fine. It exists. It's a thing and it's fun. But it's not premiere television. It's not Game of Thrones.
Well, I'm not. Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you're saying, but
that's right.
It kind of wasn't in response to what I meant.
Okay.
But anyway, high profile is all. I'm just naming high profile stuff, not how great
Shouldn't
it is.
Be. Yep. Okay. Go ahead.
All right. But in the weirdest way, we agree with. Even though we agree.
That's right.
It's as far as I'm concerned, it's this and House of the Dragon. Rings of Power and She-Hulk, I've already left them in the dust a week or 2. Like I haven't watched Rings of Power this week or last week still.
Okay.
Interesting. But anyway, I mean, you're with me. Do you think Andor and House of the Dragon are the 2 strongest of the 4?
That I've seen, yes.
Yeah. And to be fair, there's different episodes have been out, but I mean, we did get a solid chunk of Andor, so I feel like it is fair to kind of start comparing all this. But yeah. Anyway, any other remaining thoughts on Andor?
No.
All right. Well, cool. Anyway, well, I'm glad you found some appreciation for it for sure. All right, so we are halfway through this season of House of the Dragon, and I am loving the shit out of this show. It's appointment viewing for me. It's the one show I look forward to every single week, and I watch it with Ernesto. We sit down together, we have a blast, we're dead silent, we're on the edge of our seat, we react. It's just everything I love about television. And like I said, hands down, I think it's the best show on right now. Are you feeling the same way about all this?
It's the best Game of Thrones we've gotten in years. Years. It's so good.
Yeah.
So this is the show I talk about more than anything right now. So at work, I work at a church, work for the Lord.
Yeah.
But we be watching Hot D. Okay? We all talk about the Hot D.
Yes.
I am just, they have done such a great job on this show so far. I am all in. It's the best show on TV. It really is the only TV to me that matters. And it's about dragons and fantasy stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, who would have thought it would work? But it so does. It's done so well. I sing this show's praises. It is done awesomely.
Yeah. I think that's what makes me it's easier to sour on all the other shows that I mentioned previously, because I'm just like, why can't you like do this? not like in the way that, of course, She-Hulk is going to have a different DNA than, but I'm talking about the care for the characters and the writing and the amount of time and effort you put into the stories and the scripts and world building, and the thing that Game of Thrones has always done well. I mean, I agree. I think it's so far mid-season the best season since season 6 of Game of Thrones.
Oh, for sure.
But also I appreciate kind of like how it's different than Game of Thrones as well. I mean, every way that they would need to or want to be different, I think it works. While also like the ways that they still need to be Game of Thrones, that's all there too.
Yeah.
And it's the best of both worlds. And I mean, this is very much a Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul sibling relationship. The way that this show just adds to and expands instead of taints or ruins, the way that Star Wars continues to taint and ruin itself with every new entry. This is just ideally, this is everything House of the Dragon needed to be and what we asked for it to be. And I just think it's, and also like, I think the thing that's probably thrown me off the most, and the thing that it like the make it or break it aspect of this show, I think, is the lapses in time, because that's a new device that we're not used to. And in a weird way, the lapses in time and the fact that we flash forward years, I think what that does to me is it's honestly, it just highlights how much time in this type of universe that nothing happens. Think about when we watched like the first season or two in Game of Thrones, and it's a throwaway line, but I think they talked about how the travel time from King's Landing to Winterfell is actually a month. Like, think of the Game of Thrones pilot when we open in Winterfell and then they find out the king is coming, and then it cuts to Mark Addy and the Lannisters arriving in Winterfell. 30 days passed at least in that pilot. And so it's more like that, where, oh, if Daemon goes off and fights the crab feeder, like, he's going to be gone forever. Like, he's not just going to show up in the next scene, because he's gone fighting a war. And Viserys might not see him for 3 years.
Right.
So that kind of stuff, the time lapses, honestly, are just because I think so much time goes by where nothing happens. So it's doing us a favor by just skipping all this stuff. So I think that, and ultimately I got an interesting text from Jay where he kind of brought up the idea, and I wanted to know what you thought about, well, everything I've said, but also this. I think he's sort of on this, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he brought up a concern that it kind of just asks you to care about characters without earning your care. And I think he was mainly like taking issue with like where we were with Kristen Cole, and how we kind of watched him explode in that final scene, and like I don't agree with Jay, but I think it's a valid point to bring up. Like, how much can you care about certain characters if you only see them do so few things in this amount of time? What's your take on all that? How time works?
It keeps on slipping. I think Jay is he might have a valid point, but I don't care about Kristen Cole. There's nothing in me that care. Like, I cannot wait to see how evil he becomes because, he won't run away and marry Rhaenyra, won't run away and marry him.
Right.
I think the time jumps have been awesome for me so far, but they're all the same actors. Or mostly the same actors in the same roles. This next episode is when we're going to get new actors.
Yes.
And so I don't mind the time skips at all. It takes me a second to adjust because I'm like, oh, that's that baby? Okay. Well, this is where we are now, and I accept it.
And eventually you just get, like, there's one character that has that one line of dialogue in an episode that tells you exactly how much time has passed, and then
right.
It's like it's almost like I'm Desmond Hume on Lost, and that's my constant. That's what, like, grounds me. You know that episode, The Constant, where he, like, needs the one thing to ground him back in his mind, and it's kind of like that. Like, everything else makes sense, and I can finally sit and relax and take in everything else that's going on. So it's just that one line of dialogue we get in an episode that brings me right in, and I'm fine.
Yeah. The way they're handling the Viserys being hurt by the throne is incredible. Like, you see him just deteriorate and have to put up with the worst shitty children,
right?
Who don't deserve him, even though, like, he killed his wife to try and save a child. Which that's a Sophie's choice. That's a hard choice anyway. So I'm not, like, damning the man for that, but I think, like, this series, so I'm a casual fan of TV and movies. Like, I like them. I watch them every day. But, like, if it's silly, I'm out. Like, I'm not going to give things like, oh, but you got to think about, I'm not going to a Blade Runner or, like, anything, a TV show most of the time. But this is a TV show that I listen to two podcasts every week on them. The one thing I hate, the one thing I don't like is I think they need to do away with what's coming up next episode. Because there was a cliffhanger at the end of episode 5, and going into this week's episode, we know that Viserys isn't dead. He falls over at the end of the last scene of episode 5.
Right.
And then the trailer for it shows him alive. And it's been like 10 years or however long.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I didn't like. And then when you go and listen to the podcasts, they are not watching those trailers. So they're responding like, will we see him? Will we not? And, I listened to Jason Concepcion on the official House of the Dragon, and then I listen to that Ringer one now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it means that much to me. It takes up that much of my time is listening to hoity-toits and executives. Like, the HBO podcast, I appreciate less only because they're not going to spoil anything.
Right.
They can't step over lines. The one on the Ringer, they can go wild.
Are you talking about the fact that, like, they're talking about stuff in the Fire and Blood book? Is that what you mean?
No, I mean, like, they're not going to spoil anything that's going to happen, so they probably won't make predictions that they know will happen because HBO would not let them do it. Does that make sense?
I see what you're saying. You're saying that the HBO official podcast says less about
what could happen.
Yeah. Okay.
All that, they speculate less.
Right.
Because
if their speculation's right, then it becomes a spoiler. Okay, I see what
exactly.
Yeah.
So this show means that much to me because I'm having a blast listening to, like, the views on it. I like the HBO one because they bring on executive producers and they ask really woke questions. like about violence towards women, and you're like, this is Game of Thrones. Anything goes. How dare you?
Westeros has never been woke.
That's right.
Well, it's like there's the article
It's
too.
not Wokesteros.
That's the article too that I saw, which is like House of the Dragon has a queer problem, just like the original show, and it's like, no, it doesn't. because the whole point, it's like it explores that kind of stuff, and it's allegorical and metaphorical and real, but it's also, it makes no promises. Like, it would be terrible if House of the Dragon came out and was woke, because the through line and the threads of how that stuff works it would be a house of cards. It would all fall apart if you retroactively just change what it's supposed to be. It's like, we had kind of had this conversation, I think, last week or so. But it's like, because House of the Dragon, I feel like, or no, we were talking about it with Rings of Power, where Rings of Power came out before the show. It was like talking about how woke it was, and the fans rejected it because they, it seemed like they did everything to try to be woke. Whereas, like,
pandering.
They don't. Yeah, that's right. But
again,
House of the Dragon didn't say anything about just like casting. I don't know what it means that the actor who plays Corlys is black, and has like that mixed race. But they didn't say anything about it. They just did it, and they didn't make it about it. And none of us think anything of it. Like, I haven't had a single thought about how there are some actors who are mixed race or black or whatever, because they're not focused solely on that. Whereas like Rings of Power, I'm just like, did they just do this just to be woke? I'm just like, I don't know. But
see, it hasn't bothered me, because I don't think there's any wokeness in Rings of Power. There's just representation, and anyone who gets mad at representation is a fool.
Right.
So when it comes to how it's handled in Westeros and in House of the Dragon, like, obviously it doesn't have a queer problem. I'm saying this as a straight white guy, but they handled the whole, like, Corlys's kid being gay or preferring goose or duck, whichever one. They did that whole Schitt's Creek thing with the wine. Have you watched Schitt's Creek?
No.
Is it because you're a real cool guy? Why haven't you watched Schitt's Creek?
Because first of all, when it premiered, it was on a channel that like no longer exists. It was literally called like the Pop Network. And then people didn't start watching it until it was on Netflix or whatever. It was like literally on I remember when it came out, I was like, what channel is this? I've never heard of it. It's kind of like when you hear a show's coming out and it's like, the first ever Roku original. It's like, I'm not getting Roku to watch this show.
Ryan, Schitt's Creek is incredible.
Anyway, I've seen Ernesto watch Schitt's Creek. Like, it's been on my TV plenty, and it's never made me laugh once.
Yeah, you got to get through the first season.
And it's been random
it's a
episodes.
Delight. I'm telling you, it's a delight. You're wrong.
I love Eugene Levy, though. I love him. I think he's a genius.
You got to watch it. You're wrong. Okay. So, I haven't noticed a queer problem, or is their problem that there's no representation? What's their problem?
I didn't read the article because the headline made me roll my eyes.
So, yeah, I don't know what they were referencing, but it definitely, in terms of representation, there's at least some. Is that enough? Probably not. We need more, but there's some. And that's better than when can you talk about, premier television having that kind of representation before, in the past 10 years. So, anyway, it's a great show. I love that they're setting all this up. And one of the things I've been thinking about is, have you noticed, other than like the crab catcher and them going there?
Crab catcher. That was my nickname in high school. Go ahead.
That's right. What was his name? The crab
feeder.
Crab feeder. Deadliest catch, when other than them traveling there, they've done a lot of the shots in the same places, right? These are all like, so we haven't seen a ton of huge battles. We haven't seen a ton. So I think all of that, the reason that the scenes and the scenery is so consistent. They're doing a lot in the Godswood, right? They're doing a lot in not Casterly Rock, but the main, like where the Iron Throne is,
the Red Keep.
The Red Keep. So we've seen a lot of that. I think they're saving money there so that later when it goes down, it's going to get wild. And if you've, like, they reference this a little bit, but, like, because history is recorded by the victors, they've already set precedent that Fire and Blood is not a reliable,
That's right.
history book. So we know what happens to Rhaenyra in the book, right?
I don't.
Do you want to know?
No, I don't. I have.
Okay, I won't spoil it.
I was gonna say I've thankfully avoided. I literally know nothing that's gonna go on.
Okay.
Other than the few times in Game of Thrones itself when they reference some of this stuff, because it was what I think it was Princess Shireen who was like telling Davos a little bit about this story, and like I don't even remember that exactly. So
yeah, well, Joffrey talks about what happens
right
from the history. I'm not going to repeat it,
right.
But we already know that they can and will deviate from those lines.
Right.
With a show that's mainly focused on Rhaenyra, I think they can do whatever they want with her. If who's playing her as an adult?
Her last name is Darcy. I can't remember if it's Emma Darcy or something like that. It's an actress I'm not familiar with.
Okay. So if that actress is good, sky's the limit for Rhaenyra. I think Matt Smith has done an incredible job in how he's played Daemon.
Oh my God, yeah.
I think that scene, one of my favorite scenes in the whole show, it's kind of like a throwaway scene, but it's when he murders his wife.
Right.
He doesn't say a word.
And my stomach dropped. Same effect. My stomach drops when he walks in on the wedding engagement party or whatever you want to call it, the big event. My stomach drops every time he just shows up and he doesn't say anything.
Not a word.
The scene you mentioned with his wife, I mean, that's another great. It's something the showrunners talk about in the inside look to what you were speaking to, where they were able to just come up with how she died. Because all it says in Fire and Blood is that she died. But the writers were able to take that liberty and make it the scene that it is. And so that's a really interesting thing, where it's literally about not being faithful and doing what they want with the story while also not ruining the story. And I think that's kind of where Game of Thrones sort of fell off once the writers kind of deviated from the books. So not that they had any choice, because George R.R. Martin, but you know what I mean.
Did you know he's like 73 or 74?
Oh, yeah.
And he's a big guy.
Yeah, oh, yeah. I don't know if he's going to...
It's a miracle that he's lived this long.
He still has another book to write. After finishing the one we've been waiting for 10 years. And when I say we, I mean the fans, not me. But
he looks like he could be my dad. He wears the same hats. We shop at the same stores.
In fact, George R.R. Martin should be your thumbnail on our calls.
It should be. That's right. I so wish that you and I had decided to recap this show instead of Rings of Power back when this show kicked off. Because, man, we could have just gushed about a show. Now, there's still tons of room.
I was going to say, well, there's one reason why that's not the case, right? It's because it's a Sunday night show, and I didn't think you would podcast early in the week, since we already had this
podcast on a Sunday night. My week's over.
Oh, well, I don't even always watch the show on Sunday.
Oh, I don't either, though.
I watch it on
usually
Mondays.
I watch it Monday. Yeah. But all that to be said, I think this is peak Game of Thrones. This is, even though it's not like a Battle of the Bastards type of episode, it feels that important to me, the things that are going on and how they're being played.
Right.
I think this is, Game of Thrones running on all cylinders, firing on all cylinders, whatever. I think this is just I couldn't be happier with where the show is now. And I am going to say I'm a little nervous about this next time jump because I love the actress who plays Alicent. I think, I think we're losing.
You love the actress that plays Alicent?
Yeah.
The young one.
Yeah.
Okay, well, she's about to be replaced by an incredible actress, Olivia
Who?
Cook.
Oh, is she really?
Yeah, I was going to say, talk about, Emma Darcy, who's replacing Rhaenyra. I mean, I feel like that's the one that's going to have to, like, earn my trust more because Millie Alcock, who plays the young Rhaenyra, she's done incredible. But I don't have that much of a relationship with the young Alicent. And I've been waiting for Olivia Cook since the show premiered. So I am ready for new Alicent.
Yeah.
I'm ready for new Alicent, and I'm hesitant to see what... I'm not hesitant. I'm not afraid. I think she's going to do awesome. I'm just saying. I'm more excited about the replacement of Alicent than I am Rhaenyra.
But we are losing such an incredible Rhaenyra. She is fantastic. She plays that role. It doesn't seem like she's trying to be like counter. It just seems like that's who she is because of how well that actress has played that role. All to be said, like I think it's premiere TV. I hope for 10 seasons of House of the Dragon. There's so much because really I want Mad King. I want that series. Because
Mad
we heard
King
all about
and, like,
it.
Robert's Rebellion and all that stuff.
Yeah. The only problem is if they were going to do it, they would have needed to already done it. Because all these original, well, I guess no, they wouldn't because all the characters would be younger.
I can't remember exactly how long that took, but I mean, you would need a Jaime Lannister in there, and I don't know. I mean, you could do it. I mean, you could do anything, but having a completely different actor for Jaime, having a completely different actor for Robert Baratheon, I would love to see it. I just don't know how well it would work.
Yeah. Yeah. But I would love to see the Mad King saga.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's just see what happens. Awesome show.
I agree. And also, I think, like, for this batch of Targaryens, I think you brought up a great point. We only got about 3 seasons with them. But they could still keep going. I mean, the Targaryen reign lasts so much longer. So it could be like The Wire or The Leftovers, where they just say season 4 is about a completely different set of Targaryens. So,
but it might be smart to, because we know there's a Jon Snow show coming, right?
Yeah.
Called Snow.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it a prequel? Is it a sequel? I don't know anything about it.
It's a direct sequel to Game of Thrones.
So hopefully this shows him killing Sansa, and she's dead, and God is good and praised.
I hope they bring back all those people. I hope Arya,
it'd be great.
Sansa. I mean, oh my God, I would literally cry my ass off.
It'd be awesome. But I think what's good is I think they should take a break after they tell this round of story with House of the Dragon and tell another story, so that when we come back to it or whatever, it feels fresh and we're not judging it as harshly against the characters we know and love. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah, because it'll be like when there's certain shows where, like The Leftovers, for example, how season 1 and season 2 are just so stupidly different. And it's great and it works, but that was a gamble to do that. So yeah, I think the more distance they can put between them will only serve them well. Right. But so far, whoever's running the show, I know nothing. But whoever the showrunners for this are incredible. And I can't wait to see how this thing wraps up.
100%. All right. Well, that does it. Do you want to hear about Don't Worry, Darling, or do you want me to let you go?
Yeah. Tell me about it.
All right. So
did Harry Styles spit on
Chris
the pretty
Pine?
one?
No.
Chris Pine.
He did not. So
he did.
Don't Worry, Darling. There was a time. Don't Worry, Darling was my most anticipated movie of the fall. Like, after Top Gun Maverick, I was just honed in on Don't Worry, Darling. I mean, I could not wait. I've been following the production of this. I remember when Shia LaBeouf got kicked off the set, supposedly. All that stuff has changed. But I remember back when it happened, I remember caring so much about Olivia Wilde's next movie because of how much I love Booksmart. I remember just freaking out when I found out Florence Pugh was cast in this. I was just like, this is just a cosmic Ryan Snelling movie. I was all about it. I was even still excited when Harry Styles came in. I was like, oh, this is going to be incredible. And the set photos released and everything, I was like, this is going to be a match made in heaven. I can't freaking wait. And then, about a month ago.
No, and then.
About a month ago, all the shit. I'm not going to go through every little thing. All the stuff. It's still going, though. The drama.
So I know none of this, by the way.
Oh, I'll go through it a little bit. So So by the way, Shia LaBeouf was cast in the Harry Styles role, which, if you know anything about the story, or if you follow the trailers, basically what the trailers promise you is this utopic. Is it 50s and 60s? I don't know exactly what it is, but this like 50s and 60s utopic sort of nuclear family type thing. But there's a mysterious element to it. And the look of Harry Styles, it's perfect. But Shia LaBeouf was in that role. And we almost got a Shia LaBeouf Florence Pugh movie, which would have been amazing. Unfortunately, now that I've seen the movie, Shia LaBeouf would not have saved it. This movie was beyond getting help. But Shia LaBeouf was supposedly kicked off. And the quote at the time, Olivia Wilde said, there's a no asshole policy. So maybe he was just being like disruptive and abusive. And so she cast Harry Styles. And then her and Jason Sudeikis break up and get a divorce. And then she ends up dating Harry Styles while being his boss on this set. So that's why like the Olivia Wilde, Jason Sudeikis, Harry Styles drama was so ripe, because they were working together professionally. And they're still together to this day. And like, that's been like its own thing outside of the movie drama. There was, do you know what CinemaCon is?
No, I have sex with women.
Right. So it's a con.
Well, with my wife. That wasn't a straight joke or a gay joke. That was about me having sex and you not. Go ahead.
Okay. So they have a CinemaCon every year where it's for theater owners and people who work for movie theaters. And the studios basically show press and theater owners, hey, these are the movies we're giving you, and we're going to promise you, like, all this stuff. So Olivia Wilde came out at CinemaCon to do promote Don't Worry, Darling, and while she was on stage moderating the stage, she was served custody papers from Jason Sudeikis while doing this thing.
Incredible.
Like, the person interrupted on a stage with lights down, press, and everything. So yeah, you can look it up. It's crazy. So all this
go Jason.
Yeah. All this stuff is like crazy going on. And this, again, is before the Florence Pugh everything. So then people started noticing that every time Olivia Wilde would post about Don't Worry, Darling on Instagram, or every time they put out a new trailer, Florence Pugh would mysteriously not mention the movie whatsoever. And like Olivia Wilde would like post pictures of her like directing Florence and be like, Florence was a powerful force. She saved my movie, blah, 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 this and that. And then Florence Pugh would, like, not say anything. So people were like, what's up with Olivia Wilde and Florence Pugh? So the internet has kind of done a great job forcing all of this stuff to light. Because if you watch the interviews with, like, Olivia Wilde and all the other, you can tell that everyone involved with this movie is absolutely miserable. So... And now the Rotten Tomatoes score as of right now is in the low 30s, and my expectations completely flipped. Now, am I extremely disappointed that this movie wasn't what I thought it was going to be? Yes. Did I have the ability to change my expectations and alter how I was going to view this entire thing? 100%. I went in excited up until the point I walked into that theater, excited to watch a train wreck. And still under the impression that at least I get to watch Florence Pugh crush it. I was just like, okay, I'm going to be judging Olivia Wilde's direction, the story, Harry Styles, is he going to slip in and out of a terrible accent? Like, I was so excited to see a train wreck, and Florence Pugh walk away just being the only thing good about this movie. And guess what?
That's
That's it.
exactly what you got.
Except I didn't have as much fun as I thought I would because the story was
Ah,
so meh.
really?
So this movie, I'm not going to spoil anything. So there's only so much I can talk about. I can really only basically talk about what the trailer shows, but this movie does have a completely different side to it that the trailers don't show, is what I'll say. But Florence Pugh crushes it. She is so freaking good in this movie. The material does not serve her. And basically what happens is, and the trailer shows a lot of this stuff, you open, it was filmed in Palm Springs, but you open up and it's supposed to be, this is what happiness looks like. This is utopic. It's the 50s and 60s, whatever. And, Harry Styles and Florence Pugh, they all live in a cul-de-sac. Like the cast, Nick Kroll's in it, Olivia Wilde, all these people.
Okay.
They all live in a cul-de-sac, so it's like kind of like this nosy neighbor element to it too. But it's cute, I guess. And weird stuff starts happening. And Florence Pugh starts to like kind of start break down into like this like psychosis thing where it's about her descent into psychosis and mania, or so we're led to believe, depending on your viewpoint. And
Okay.
basically what this movie wants to do is it's like it wants to be an episode of The Twilight Zone. And it fails because basically the story beats, they're so redundant and repetitive. Because it's just constantly, here's a new scene where Florence Pugh stumbles upon something weird, and here's a scene where the person doesn't believe her. Like, it's just that over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But I think where it starts to fall apart is that they don't, you get a sense from the trailer that Chris Pine plays this like messianic person who's responsible for this living community, and he works for this company, and he's the head of the company that Harry Styles works for, but it's top secret, and the women at home are not allowed to know what the men are going away and doing. Like, that's a huge thing. So going in, it's like, okay, we're going to explore like gender identity roles and misogyny and things like that. The movie fails horribly at doing any of it, though. Like, it doesn't actually expand or make you think about any of these ideas because it tries to be so many things all at once. And again, it's redundant and repetitive that it fails at everything it tries, essentially.
So it's not a good movie.
Simply put, it is not a good movie. And
wow.
the only thing that made it watchable was, again, Florence Pugh. I actually think all of the actors are good in it. None of the actors are bad.
Okay.
Harry Styles is good in it.
Is he handsome in it?
He's 100% handsome. But you also
Of course
don't,
he is.
It's also a very like surface level character. Like, they don't really do
Okay.
a whole lot with him, unfortunately. I wish they did. I mean, I guess it kind of comes back to do for a long time in the movie. You're just asked to follow Harry Styles essentially. And they really don't get into his character until when it's too late. Because the movie fails to come together so hard.
Oh.
And it just leaves so many things on the floor, and it doesn't, it's almost just pointless. Honestly. I mean, there's just like honestly nothing to take away from it, because you're only going to be thinking about all these other movies and stories and shows that you know that this wants to be that have done it better. So the only thing left to do is just talk about how Florence Pugh has come out of all of this without any drama. She's always stayed out of it. She hasn't been on the promotional stuff. She hasn't been on the press tour or anything like that. So she has stayed out of it, and she's going to be the only person that comes out of this where it benefits. Because Harry and Olivia have all the baggage that they have. There's like a lot of reports where like they like left the set all the time. And like it just came out off air. I was reading an article and watching an interview with Olivia Wilde on Colbert. Like Olivia and Harry would just like leave the set for an extended period of time and just like leave all the actors hanging and stuff. And Florence just seemed like she was the only one trying to be professional, and Olivia Wilde just like let the movie get away from her. essentially.
Wild.
It's directed wonderfully. It looks gorgeous. It's just the writing and the story that makes all of it for nothing.
Well, so that's a bummer. I was excited to see. Hey, Florence Pugh, was it you that posted on Instagram, like
Probably.
basically her making a grumpy cat face in all of her movies? Yeah. She's so hot, and perfect. So I just need you to know, I'm looking forward to seeing the movie, and I of course I'll wait until you buy it on Vudu or whatever.
That's right.
But I just got a notification on my phone. So I for news I use Flipbook. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, it's the thing that like comes
Okay.
like preloaded on your phone, isn't it?
No, I had to download it.
Okay.
But I just got a notification that Chrissy Teigen continues quest for Skyline Chili after a location she visited closed early.
Okay.
And they decided to give me a notification on my phone. So guess what? Flipbook, you done.
All right. Anyway, back to my review before
That's it.
before we leave the podcast. Thank you though.
That's it. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I think that this movie is going to. My theater was just full of groups of chicks, so right away I could only. So I can just tell that the audience for this, and this was at a Thursday night preview, the audience for this, after all the drama, might mostly consist of Harry Styles freaks, which
Heck
is
yeah.
which is not a good sign. Like it might make it somewhat successful. Like that might be the only thing that keeps it from being an absolute tragedy, is that there's like a built-in Harry Styles fan base for this. But the drama has just, I mean, all of the air's left the room in terms of this movie. So Avatar, the original, is being re-released this week. It's been upgraded to 4K, high dynamic range.
Okay.
I think it's possible that Avatar, 13 years later or whatever it is, a re-release, might contend with the box office for this movie, which is hilarious. And what a failure if that's the case. But yeah, just
would you say that Don't Worry Darling is like Olivia Wilde's take on M. Night Shyamalan doing Pleasantville?
I mean, it definitely has Pleasantville vibes, 100%.
Okay.
And if I like say anything more, it kind of ruins it. But
Dang it.
Yeah, I can tell you off air, but anyway.
Yeah, tell me off air.
I think this movie's gonna get dumped to streaming fast.
Heck yeah,
I think
let's
you'll
go.
be able to rent it very soon.
Or you will. Great. Anything else?
Nope, nothing left to do but sign off because we have a minute left on this Zoom. You want to tell people where they can find you, or no?
You can find me on Instagram at Brando Big Mouth. What about you, Ryan?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, TikTok at RewatchRyan, and please anticipate these horror watch-alongs. I'm putting a lot of work into them, and I'm not even gonna be able to get to 18, but it's all good. Horror. That's right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
All right, I'll see you.